Bricks and Minifigs is your one-stop shop for all things Lego. Hit the link below to find a store near you.
My name is Slade Van Tine, and this is my Leaning Tower of Pisa that took me about a year to construct and get all together. It takes me 3.5 hours to construct the superstructure, and then about an hour and a half to add all the fencing, the figs, and then the base. The base has to go last because as I'm building the superstructure, I got to walk all the way around it. So, and I love the fact that I was able to use the old Legos from my collection, the faded white. It works perfect with this building, gives it that old feel character, and really helps emphasize the look that is there if you actually go to it.
How tall is this build?
I think it's 5'4" is what it was saying from the base to the top. So
Very nice. Do you know how many pieces are in the whole thing?
I have no idea. There's 20 per this little column here, and there's 36 of those by 6 floors and it just keeps going and going. So that's part of the reason why I took a year, was collecting all the pieces from Bricklink and getting it. My favorite little Easter egg happens to be the personal story right here on the side. Oh my goodness, 40 plus years ago when I was there, I ran up ahead of my dad and ran out on the end and didn't realize it was slippery, and I started slipping and he came and caught me. And so my first memory of fear is here on the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So
You've decided to recreate that now.
Yeah, recreated that scene as a thank you and a shout out to him that I survived. So yeah. So it's just a fun time, very hard making circles, but once I figured out how to transport it, it went pretty good. And this thing that you can't see is I actually have a railroad track back-to-back ×2 inside that comes up through the middle and catches all the weight of the top. So the top section can hang freely, independently. That way it wouldn't be top heavy and fall. So that was my counterbalance measure to make sure it would lean and yet not be too far.
There you go. How did you get that kind of exact amount of lean that you wanted there, and kind of experimenting with making sure that that would look right?
Yeah, so that actually took a couple renditions. It ends up being a plate, 2 wide, and then a tile, and then a plate and tile, plate, tile. So it's half a step for the pitch, and the whole base is that way to make that happen and get the lean. I tried at first not using columns, and it couldn't support the weight. So I did have to rebuild it a few times.
So take us through kind of each layer and how this build kind of came together for you then, and the design kind of techniques you used there.
Okay. I can't remember the number of the piece, but there's an old airplane wing that has a nice double-sided wedge on it. And so I used that first on and made my first circle. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. What can I do with it? And immediately I'm an architectural guy, and I said building. And so then I went to Leaning Tower of Pisa. Once I had that circumference, then I built the base, and I spent most of my time on the windows trying to figure out how to get those jumpers to make it look right. And once I got the base set, then I built my first ring and my columns, and then I started ordering pieces from Bricklink and worked my way up. So a lot of 1x3s and a lot of asking my lug for help for any old white pieces they had. And it turned out well, and I'm very pleased. So the very last thing I built then was the grass and the sidewalk down below, because I had to have the superstructure done first. So, and then I actually started sewing again and made a little flag skirt just to help hide it and make it look better. So it's been fun posing, catching it or pushing it, and watching people's reactions. So it's been a great build. I'm happy to bring it here and show it at BrickFair, Virginia.
Absolutely. Speaking of the posing, I think you've got a couple different scenes here, right? Of some characters posing.
I certainly do. To help get perspective way off in the distance, we have the photographer taking a picture of his lady holding the bridge up, and I got a couple smaller ones like that down close, and video recorders, and lots of fun characters scattered throughout that, you know, the kids recognize, Elsa and Batman. And I also, just for fun of it, I put soldiers, and he's actually in a marching situation working his way around the tower. So just any Easter eggs you can add to bring out more color and make it exciting. And I actually managed to get all the bells in. So it is a bell tower, and it has all 7 of them for the musical notes. And the only steps it has are from the top down to the main observation level. There's no internal steps because the train track that holds everything up is on the inside.
Yeah, no, this is just a fantastic build. And the fact you went at this scale here is amazing. Did you always plan to go this large with it, or how did that come together?
I wanted minifigure size, so that's what once I figured that out and actually added the doors in the front, it helped give me perspective, and I just went off of that and kept making sure my scale was big enough, and went from there.
What is the technique and pieces used on kind of the round sections here that you see in the middle there?
Okay, so it's the airplane wedge piece with tile on top, and then columns. Oh my goodness, how do I describe this? The most expensive piece was the 1x3 double wedge, but you have the arch, and then the arch in the back is just for show. It's a facade. It's only being held by 2 pins at the top. So really all the weight is transferring through the column down. So the outer rings and the columns are taking the weight, and then the inside is its own separate skyscraper taking the weight. So it's kind of like 2 skyscrapers enveloped with each other support-wise.
And the inside sort of uses that like brick bending technique almost. You're able to get that round shape.
1x3s and a lot of palisade bricks in between the 1x3s to give it that shape and flow. So yes.
As you were working on this, I know you said you were there many years ago as a child. Have you returned more recently, or were you looking at photos? How did that work?
I spent a lot of time looking at photos and internet YouTube videos on what's happening and pictures, so a lot of research. Not too many memories except the scaredness.
How did you decide and design kind of the base of this here around the bottom?
So the base came last. I had some of the palisade bricks left, and they do a good job bending, so I bent them around. Making the triangles was a lot harder than the squares at the offset diamond shape that they have at the real place was a lot harder than I thought, but it worked out, and they're close enough that you get the perspective. And I've seen a lot of people take pictures looking straight down, and so I wanted to make sure I had that effect with this.
And then I know you said it took a number of hours to set this up. What was that kind of whole transport process like for you? Is this pretty strong in there in terms of moving this around a show?
It's too heavy to move once it's here. I would say each level is in 3 pieces. You got the inner ring, you got the main level ring, and then you got the columns. So so that's 3 boxes per level. So it's a lot of boxes to get it here, and a lot of labeling. So what you don't see is I had blue painter's tape on every level, every section, so that I could put it back again in order. And then when it was here at the show, I peeled all that off. So I do recommend blue painter's tape to reline things up and remember which floor was which.
We mentioned kind of the photographer scenes. What are some of the other minifigures or little scenes that you have placed throughout the build?
Well, I have the keychain Mr. Gold, not the real one, up on top taking a look. I put my daughter recently got married to her sailor husband, Jordan. So I have even Jordan over there in the corner with a photographer taking pictures of them, kind of as a shout out, congratulations. And then just lots of people. I'm trying to think of anyone that.
You got some friends figures over here?
Figures, and I only use the old Legos, except for the friends, with the yellow skin. And my friends are all over the place thrown in. And I do have a Batman hidden coming out of a door somewhere. And what else did I? And then the soldiers walking around. They're actually in step, Yeah. So it came out well, and I've been getting lots of good feedback. So for a single person build, it came out well, and it presents well.
Excellent.
The flag took me a long time. I had to look at a lot of pictures and rework that a few iterations. It probably took me 2 weeks to get that flag.
I think it turned out nice, and all the levels really look fantastic. It's a very iconic building, so I'm sure you've had a lot of people coming up and recognizing it and maybe surprised at the scale of how big this is.
Yes, definitely. And everyone wants to catch it and pose as if they're holding it up. So it's been a pleasure to bring it in and show it off.
Fantastic. Great work. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.